The bold and the beautiful spoilers may first promise a suspense-filled episode packed with psychological tension, emotional revelations, and shocking twists that will leave viewers questioning who can truly be trusted as danger creeps closer to Forrester Creations, where Melissa Dillon finds herself at the center of a mysterious storyline that escalates from unsettling phone calls into a terrifying face-to-face confrontation, proving once again that peace never lasts long in Los Angeles' most glamorous fashion dynasty, and as the episode unfolds, Dylan's growing sense of unease becomes impossible to ignore because the anonymous caller who has been haunting her refuses to fade into the background, instead intensifying their pursuit with a chilling determination that suggests unresolved history and deeply buried secrets are about to surface in dramatic fashion. While Dylan tries to convince herself she has control over the situation, insisting she won't let fear dictate her actions, yet the tension surrounding her builds steadily as every unanswered question amplifies her anxiety and every passing moment feels like a countdown to something inevitable, especially after the mysterious voice on the phone repeats the ominous phrase about unfinished business, leaving Dylan shaken even as she attempts to focus on her responsibilities at Forrester Creations, where the elegance of couture designs and the hum of creative energy contrasts sharply with the dread growing inside her, and when she remains alone in the workspace, the atmosphere shifts into something almost cinematic as silence stretches unnaturally long before a faint noise breaks through, forcing Dylan to pause and listen carefully while her instincts warn her she is no longer alone, and the subtle movement behind a dress rack becomes the catalyst for panic as shadows flicker and fabric rustles just enough to confirm her fears, culminating in a shocking moment when the mysterious figure finally steps forward, triggering Dylan's terrified scream that echoes through the building and instantly transforms the scene into one of pure suspense, encouraging viewers to suspect the worst possible culprit, perhaps someone dangerous and unpredictable like Luna Nozawa or another enemy harboring dark intentions. Yet the storyline cleverly plays with expectations because what appears sinister on the surface may conceal a far more complicated truth, one rooted not necessarily in villainy, but in personal history and emotional entanglement, raising the possibility that this supposed stalker is actually someone connected to Dylan's past in a deeply personal way, especially as new character Remy Price continues to emerge as a pivotal figure whose arrival signals major narrative shifts within the show, and with Christian Weissman now firmly part of the cast, speculation grows that Remy's connection to Dylan could be familial, perhaps revealing him as a half-brother or stepbrother whose unconventional methods of reconnecting stem from unresolved childhood dynamics filled with teasing, rivalry, and emotional distance, which would explain why the stalking behavior might ultimately be exposed as an elaborate prank rather than a genuine threat, although that revelation would hardly erase the emotional impact of the fear Dylan experiences, since even a joke taken too far can reopen wounds and challenge trust, particularly if Remy's sense of humor masks deeper resentment or longing for recognition, and viewers may recall that Remy previously displayed troubling behavior during his interactions with Elector Forrester, suggesting that even if his intentions toward Dylan are less malicious, his tendency to manipulate situations blurs the line between playful and dangerous, creating uncertainty about whether Dylan should forgive him or confront him about the psychological distress he has caused. While the show carefully balances suspense with emotional storytelling by allowing Dylan's reaction to become the emotional anchor of the episode, illustrating how vulnerability and strength coexist within her character as she transitions from fear to determination once the identity of her stalker is revealed, and regardless of whether the confrontation exposes a prank, a misunderstanding, or a darker agenda. Dylan's storyline signals a turning point that may redefine her relationships within the Forrester circle and beyond, particularly as trust becomes a recurring theme echoed throughout other plotlines unfolding simultaneously, including Will Spencer's deeply personal struggles as he receives an unexpected visit from his mother, Katie Logan Spencer, whose presence brings both comfort and honesty at a time when Will feels overwhelmed by complicated emotions tied to Ivy Forrester's manipulation and the lingering tension affecting his bond with Electra. And during their heartfelt conversation, Will finally allows himself to express frustrations he has kept bottled up, admitting that he feels caught between loyalty and self-preservation as Ivy's influence continues to create confusion and emotional strain, prompting Katie to step into her familiar role as compassionate advisor, offering insight shaped by her own experiences navigating love, betrayal, and family conflict within the Spencer and Logan legacies. And Katie's guidance serves not only as reassurance, but as a reminder that maturity often requires difficult choices, encouraging Will to evaluate whether he has been prioritizing others' expectations over his own happiness, which becomes especially meaningful given the generational parallels between Katie's past romantic struggles and Will's present dilemmas, allowing viewers to witness a rare moment of vulnerability that grounds the episode amid the surrounding suspense. While back at Forrester Creations, the aftermath of Dylan's encounter threatens to ripple outward, potentially drawing additional characters into the unfolding drama as rumors spread and questions arise about security, safety, and hidden connections among the younger generation. The bold and the beautiful spoilers continue to intensify as the aftermath of Melissa Dillon's terrifying encounter at Forrester Creations sends shockwaves throughout the fashion house and beyond, transforming what initially seemed like an isolated scare into a catalyst for emotional upheaval, unexpected confrontations, and the resurfacing of secrets that threaten to reshape multiple relationships at once. And as Dylan struggles to steady her breathing after screaming in terror at the sight of the mysterious figure emerging from behind the dress rack, the adrenaline coursing through her body makes it impossible to immediately process whether she has faced genuine danger or something far more complicated, while co-workers rush toward the commotion, drawn by the sound of panic echoing through the showroom, creating a chaotic moment where concern mixes with curiosity and whispers begin circulating almost instantly. Because in a place like Forrester Creations, where drama has historically followed both family and employees alike, any unusual incident quickly becomes the center of speculation, and as security is called to investigate, Dylan finds herself replaying every unsettling phone call she received, every strange pause on the line, and every warning she ignored while convincing herself she could handle the situation alone, realizing too late that fear has a way of growing stronger when left unspoken. Yet the true shock arrives when the supposed stalker finally removes the mask, revealing an identity that leaves Dylan stunned not only because of who it is, but because of what it implies about her past, forcing her to confront emotions she thought she had buried years ago. And if the figure indeed turns out to be Remy Price, the revelation immediately reframes the entire situation from one of external threat to deeply personal conflict, exposing unresolved family dynamics that now demand attention in the most public way possible, while Remy attempts to downplay the encounter as harmless mischief rooted in nostalgia and sibling rivalry. Dylan's reaction makes clear that the emotional consequences are anything but playful, since fear is not easily dismissed once experienced, and the violation of trust cuts deeper than any joke could justify, especially in a professional environment where she expected safety and control, prompting a heated exchange between them that reveals layers of resentment, abandonment, and longing for connection, suggesting that Remy's actions may stem from feelings of exclusion or jealousy tied to Dylan's success and stability within the Forrester world, which contrasts sharply with his own complicated path. And as the confrontation unfolds, observers begin to realize that what they are witnessing is less about a prank and more about two people grappling with shared history neither fully understands. While Dylan demands answers about why Remy chose intimidation rather than honesty as his method of re-entering her life, pushing him to admit that he feared rejection and believed shocking her into a reaction would force acknowledgement he never received growing up, a confession that adds emotional complexity even as it fails to excuse his behavior, leaving Dylan torn between anger and empathy, and the tension escalates further when senior members of the Forrester family become aware of the incident, raising concerns about workplace security and personal boundaries that could have lasting professional consequences, particularly if Remy's past behavior toward Electra Forrester resurfaces during discussions about whether he should even be allowed near the company again, creating a ripple effect that extends beyond Dylan's personal story into broader questions about accountability and second chances, while Electra herself becomes an unexpected voice in the conversation. offering insight shaped by her own complicated interactions with Remy, acknowledging that although he possesses charm and vulnerability, his tendency to push limits makes him unpredictable, forcing everyone involved to consider whether redemption is truly possible or whether patterns inevitably repeat themselves. And amid this turmoil, Dylan finds unexpected support from colleagues who rally around her, reminding her she does not have to face emotional fallout alone. A realization that strengthens her resolve to set firm boundaries while still seeking closure, even as she wrestles with lingering doubt about whether Remy's reappearance signals deeper secrets yet to be uncovered. And outside the Forrester offices, another emotional storyline unfolds as Will Spencer reflects on his conversation with Katie Logan Spencer, whose compassionate yet honest advice continues to echo in his thoughts, encouraging him to confront the complicated feelings stirred by Ivy Forrester's manipulation and his strained connection with Electra. And as Will re-examines recent events, he begins recognizing how easily he allowed himself to be influenced by others' expectations, realizing that love built on confusion cannot survive without clarity and trust, prompting him to consider having a direct conversation with Electra about their future rather than avoiding uncomfortable truths, a decision that demonstrates significant emotional growth and signals a turning point in his character development. While Katie remains quietly hopeful that her son will learn from past Spencer family mistakes by choosing honesty over impulsive reactions, reflecting the show's recurring theme that wisdom often passes from one generation to the next through moments of vulnerability rather than grand gestures. And as Will prepares to take responsibility for his own happiness, Ivy senses the shift and grows increasingly uneasy, recognizing that her influence over him may be slipping away, which introduces a new layer of tension as she contemplates whether to fight for control or accept the consequences of her actions, setting the stage for potential confrontations that could redefine alliances within the younger cast. While back at Forrester Creations, Dylan attempts to regain normalcy by immersing herself in work, yet every familiar sound now carries an undercurrent of uncertainty. The bold and the beautiful spoilers continue building momentum as the emotional aftershocks of Melissa Dillon's frightening encounter refuse to fade, transforming what began as a moment of panic into a turning point that exposes fragile relationships, hidden motivations, and long-standing emotional wounds that now demand resolution. And in the days following the confrontation at Forrester Creations, Dylan finds herself struggling to reclaim a sense of normalcy, while colleagues treat her with cautious sympathy, their concerned glances serving as constant reminders that vulnerability has suddenly replaced the confident composure she once displayed so effortlessly. Yet beneath her determination to move forward lies a growing realization that the situation with Remy Price cannot simply be dismissed as an unfortunate misunderstanding, because every memory of the phone calls, every moment of fear she endured, and every unanswered question about his intentions continues to linger in her thoughts, creating an emotional storm she cannot ignore, while Remy himself wrestles with the consequences of his actions, discovering that what he considered an attempt at reconnection has instead positioned him as an outsider viewed with suspicion by nearly everyone within the Forrester circle, forcing him to confront the uncomfortable truth that humor and shock tactics cannot replace genuine accountability. And as he attempts to explain himself repeatedly, Dylan begins to see glimpses of sincerity beneath his defensive charm, though forgiveness remains distant because trust once shattered requires more than apologies to rebuild, especially when fear has been involved, and their tense conversations gradually reveal deeper layers of family history marked by misunderstandings, separations, and emotional neglect that shaped both of them in different ways, suggesting that Remy's erratic behavior may stem from unresolved feelings of abandonment, while Dylan's guarded nature reflects years spent protecting herself from disappointment, turning their conflict into a complex exploration of how shared past experiences can create vastly different coping mechanisms. And as news of the incident reaches senior members of the Forrester family, discussions begin regarding boundaries, security protocols, and the emotional well-being of employees, prompting Ridge and Brooke to acknowledge that the younger generation faces pressures unlike anything they experienced during their own rise within the company, recognizing that emotional safety has become just as important as professional success. while Electra Forrester finds herself unexpectedly caught in the middle of the situation, recalling her own uneasy interactions with Remy and questioning whether she misjudged him entirely or whether Dylan's experience confirms instincts she tried to ignore, leading Electra to approach Dylan privately in a moment of solidarity that strengthens their bond as they share perspectives about navigating complicated personalities and maintaining independence within a family-driven business environment. And this growing friendship introduces a refreshing dynamic built on mutual respect rather than rivalry, offering both women emotional grounding amid chaos. While elsewhere, Will Spencer continues reflecting on the advice given by Katie Logan Spencer, whose heartfelt conversation encouraged him to confront his feelings honestly rather than allowing manipulation to dictate his choices. And as Will evaluates his relationship with Ivy Forrester, he begins recognizing subtle patterns of emotional pressure he previously overlooked, realizing that affection should never feel like obligation, which empowers him to initiate a candid discussion with Ivy about boundaries, intentions, and the future they envision together. A conversation that proves far more difficult than anticipated as Ivy struggles to accept that her influence may be waning, revealing insecurities she has carefully concealed beneath confidence and ambition, and her reaction introduces tension that hints at potential conflict ahead, especially if she interprets Will's desire for independence as rejection rather than growth, setting the stage for emotional confrontations that could ripple through multiple relationships, while Katie watches from a distance with cautious optimism. Proud of her son's maturity, yet aware that personal growth often invites unexpected complications, particularly in a world where romance, loyalty, and ambition frequently collide. And back at Forrester Creations, Dylan attempts to channel her energy into a major design project, hoping creativity will provide distraction and healing, yet moments of quiet reflection continue to pull her back toward unresolved emotions connected to Remy, whose presence remains both unsettling and strangely familiar. And as they gradually begin communicating more honestly, flashes of childhood memories emerge that soften Dylan's anger just enough to allow curiosity to replace fear, though she remains firm in demanding respect and transparency moving forward, signaling a shift in power dynamics between them that could redefine their relationship entirely, while Remy's struggle for redemption becomes increasingly evident as he seeks opportunities to prove he can change, volunteering assistance at the company and attempting to demonstrate reliability rather than chaos, actions that slowly challenge preconceived notions held by others. Though skepticism persists because trust must be earned through consistent behavior over time, and as the Forrester team prepares for an upcoming fashion event, the pressure of public expectations amplifies internal tensions, providing fertile ground for emotional breakthroughs, surprising alliances, and potential setbacks that threaten to derail carefully laid plans. Especially when lingering rumors about Dylan's stalker incident attract media curiosity, forcing the company to manage both reputation and reality simultaneously, highlighting how personal struggles often unfold under public scrutiny in the glamorous yet unforgiving world of high fashion, while behind-the-scenes subtle hints suggest that Dylan's ordeal may connect to larger storylines still unfolding, raising questions about whether Remy acted alone or whether external influences played a role in escalating the situation, leaving viewers to wonder if another hidden player remains in the shadows waiting for the right moment to emerge. And this lingering mystery injects ongoing suspense even as emotional healing begins.